Welcome to Oz NFTs, NFTs are for Everyone podcast.
Every week, we'll bring you Australian artists, collectors, and builders that are paving the way in the Web3 space.
We'll go deep into their stories, how they're reshaping digital culture, and how you can get involved. Official intro here. You! Josh, aka NFT4Noobs, aka Wizard of TikTok, educator extraordinaire. I don't know what else to riff there, but thank you for joining us on NFTs for Everyone podcast today. We're in beautiful Brisbane, in this lovely backdrop of South Bank. So informative, so helpful. You're across like TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Can you introduce yourself a little bit to our audience and us and who you are and what you're doing?
For sure. So my name's Josh, the founder of NFT4Noobs. NFT, the number 4 and noobs across all social media. So I was a trader in that NFT space from like 2020 to 2021. And then it got to a point where the space wasn't moving quick enough, and there was just only like probably 100,000 of us max in the world trading NFTs daily. But it was just living from one pocket to another, pretty much like a zero-sum game. One pocket to another pocket to another pocket, and it was just like people getting rich, people getting poor, and no one else was coming in. And so that was a big problem because the whole NFT space is on Twitter and Discord. No one was leaving that ecosystem to try and help bring on the actual Web2 users into the NFT space on platforms like TikTok and Instagram. So after trying to decide what I wanted to do in the space, I realized like education was a big thing that I wanted to focus on. And I already had like a social media background, marketing specialist background. So I just went straight into that and started doing videos based upon some of the biggest lessons I had made and mistakes I had made in the space, being an NFT trader like in the early like 2020, 2021. And so some of them went viral, and within like a week or two we had 30,000 followers already on TikTok because of just like 3 videos just went crazy because they were just showing like what I thought would do well. I had like a big flip in the day, it was like 35k, and then that one just went crazy, and that's what kind of built the platform for our TikTok following. And then from then I realized, holy shit, people want to learn about this and I might be onto something here. And so it just went from there. Like every day I just like kind of set out a rule. I was like, I'm not going to care. I'm not going to try and get any money out of this. I'm just trying to help people and actually grow the space and have a brand of educational, a brand in the space. And then I was like, for 5 months, I'm just going to put my head down, post like 2 to 4 videos a day and just see what happens. And then within 4 months, we had 230,000 followers across Instagram, TikTok, Discord, and Twitter. And then the rest is just history, I guess. We've just been consistent with our content. And just still love it, still love every second of it, and just trying to do our best to kind of help the space move forward with content in the realms that the native Twitter and Discord people don't want to use, which is TikTok and Instagram and YouTube.
Cool. I think what's really powerful is you're giving a visual medium that people can engage and understand the Web3 space. It's really like easy to understand language. You break things down really to their like atomic level, and like if you go back through your content, you've been covering this stuff for a while now. Like you're back on the VV collectives.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like that was like the Marvel OG things before they were like, you know, like what it is today.
Yeah.
So it's kind of more to your, I guess, credit is like you've actually been bullish on this space for quite a while. And as you've been creating content, have you noticed that the education of your audience and the demands of information has changed?
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, going back to that as well, like yeah, VV was just like, there was only like 3 collectibles on the platform back then. And I got the name Joshua because I was that early. I think I was like one of the first 8,000 users on the app itself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like that's how early we were. There was nothing on there. So I just had like, but I was like, this is going to be huge. So that's what we were getting into really early days. And that's what that was actually what a lot of the content that people wanted early days from my content, because I was always spoke about VV and how like the first ever Marvel NFTs are going to be worth a lot of money in the future because it's just pure like collectability. Like Charizard cards were worth like $1 when we were kids. Imagine if we kept all our first edition Charizard cards. They're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars today. And it's because it's the thing is that they're the first. It's with like any industry, like the first is usually demands the highest resale price. And that's the same thing with these things, like the first Batman, the first Superman in the NFT space. We're going through a digital renaissance right now. They're going to be the most valuable when the time does come around where we have mass adoption and all 4 billion internet users will be using NFT technology in the background of everything we're doing online. So that was the first type of content they wanted. But as time has progressed, the market moves as well. So obviously back when I was doing content in like 2021, it was anything starting with NFT would capture people because they understood, and when they're watching the video, that would have a lot of potential to either flip the project or learn about, and because it was just everywhere in the media. But now that like the whole space has kind of gone down a lot, people aren't really as interested anymore. So I've had to change content completely and really just make it more interesting to them through concepts, with whether it's through pop culture and talk about Eminem and their NFTs, and Snoop Dogg's NFTs, or trying to just like really relay it back to what's happening right now at this current time. Because if you start with like NFTs this, NFTs that now, it doesn't perform as well on these platforms. So you're having a shift with as well with the content. These people are demanding more like educational around common things that they understand right now, rather than like really complex ideas that they're just going to switch off to straight away and just scroll.
I guess people just want to see how it relates to them, right? And the value that they get from it. And so talking about cultural shifts and how big brands and artists are using it, using the technology, that's captivating for people.
Exactly.
So you've started off obviously in the bull run, right? And so your views are going crazy, everyone's interested, it's hype. How has that changed since we're now in a bit more of a bear market? How's your content changed? How's the response changed?
Yeah, for sure. So like I said, it was more changing, just looking back at the videos, what's performing well and what's not doing well. So went through a stage where the videos that we would start off usually with just the words NFTs, this, NFTs, that, they just wouldn't do as well anymore. And it was like a matter of like, why is this happening? Well, it's like, obviously everything around the world is like very anti-NFTs, like just nothing at all. Like there's no media on it, whereas it used to be like NFTs are going crazy, this Bored Ape sold for this much. And so naturally, I also think all the algorithms are kind of interconnected in some way. Like for example, if NFTs are hot in just general internet, then if you speak about a topic on a platform, it like would rank higher, because that just generally gets the more search terms on Google. I reckon there's something in the background there, because that's what what do you call it, that I've been seeing, a pattern that I've been seeing recently as well, is that if you like get and be the first person to cover a really interesting news point, whether it's in the crypto NFT space, and you cover it and you have a video out, it can perform the best before anyone else covers it. So there's also those things as well, as like being on top of what's trending. Like a good way if you're a content creator as well is just to go to your platform you're creating on, type in the words of the niche you're in, and just seeing what's doing well. Some days like we just have no ideas, we just see what someone's doing and then maybe do our own version of what they're doing because it just performed well. And 9 times out of 10 that one will do well as well, because it's a concept that it's already hit with the audience, so it's going to hit again if you do it with a different perspective or a different take on the issue that they're talking about. So
a lot of alpha there for content creators out there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And I guess like I'm not labeling you, but bit of a futurist, right? You can form a thesis about what you think a market is going to do and how it's going to react, and you can stick to your guns, develop that thesis, stick to that thesis, and yield the rewards of that thesis. I mean, do you think that's a kind of a fair? Maybe not futurist is the right word, but you can form ideas based on current inputs at the moment and project an idea. Where I'm going with this, and your experience in this hive machine, that we're all interlinked, like a Blade Runner kind of thing. Do you think it is now, with the introduction of these technologies, it is an inevitable disruption that all businesses, brands, creators will eventually become a part of? Or will there be a kind of fine line between the digital world and the IRL world? Because some people may not when I get involved in that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the best analogy I always use is like the Blockbuster example, where they didn't know that they were going to get disrupted, and they could have bought Netflix for I think a few $1 million back in the day, but they didn't want to. They were just like, no, people want physical cassettes, and they didn't understand where the trends was going. Like at that time, internet, like stocks and all, just the general idea of the internet was just going like this, like going to the top right hand side on a graph. And you saw, like, I did a video on it with Jeff Bezos recently, when in the 90s he left his job because he realized that like the internet was growing year on year, I think 15,000%, with like it was either user base or what's being built with the internet. And that's why it's like, well, it was just common sense for me to leave and create a company in this sphere that we're growing in right now. So I think it is a matter of like the people that do find the niches that they can incorporate NFTs into their companies, whether it's real estate to assign to like digital for physical assets, whether it's through gaming, through Play to Earn gaming, whether it's through the supply chain management, to be able to like Gucci and them already using it, Louis Vuitton, where if you buy a physical item, they might come with an NFT to prove that it is a real one and it's not a fake one. That these corporations that do it and identify the opportunities early, it just makes their life a lot easier. So why wouldn't they do it? So they're doing it now. That's obviously when you start off in an industry and it's a lot harder, there's a lot of disruption you have to do and a lot of innovations you have to do. So I think a lot of people don't want to do that because that costs the most money if you're a big corporation or company. So they might just wait for someone else to do it. Then they'll just steal off them and take their ideas off them. But the ones that do innovate then can probably sell their infrastructure or the concepts, the innovations that they've made to these other people that need it, or monetize that in a different way. But I think it will be forced on people, and we won't realize it. Like with the internet, like with Netflix, one day you'll just wake up and be like, holy shit, online streaming's a thing. And that's something that like the world has just done. And it's not someone that just said one day that we're going to do it, but it just happened over time because progressively technology has just improved, and we've just gotten used to it, and all our devices have gotten used to it. I mean, Instagram has NFTs now on their platform, so is Facebook. Yeah. Like that's a perfect example where no one gives a fuck right now, but in 3 years' time, will be like people will be assigning their digital identities and digital flexing and digital social currencies with the NFTs they have as well. And the way you treat people, like they'll be the equivalent of like a Lamborghini is a Bored Ape Yacht Club. People will get massive followings because they have a Bored Ape probably on their NFT that they've verified is theirs. So the little things like that where it will take time, but I think over time it will come to a stage where we'll just wake up and NFTs will just be a thing across the society in every single industry.
How do you see it being used by small businesses or like brick and mortar businesses, like hospitality, doctors?
That's a really good question, actually. Like the most common one I'm seeing now, or like people are trying to do, is like for like coffee, for example. Like instead of getting the cards where you stamp 10 times, you have an NFT like instead. And so you collect the NFTs, you have a certain amount of NFTs, and then that gets you the 11th free coffee. But the better thing about that is that when you get your 10 cards and you use the 10th one, you just throw it away. But now you can also build like a database or like your own brand and your own personal digital identity through the cards you've collected. So for example, like Starbucks now has their online digital collectors like thing that they're doing now through using NFTs. Just an example is like, imagine if Kendall Jenner was to use it and her wallet was public, and then you see she has I don't drink coffee, but a skinny cap. I don't know if that's a thing. And then you can see, and she has a public, and then it's on her Instagram, and everyone can see she drinks that every single day. Imagine the sales for that now. Like that's the other utility as well you could get, and if Starbucks could utilize that and be like, this is Kendall Jenner's drink. Yeah. And so obviously this is a bigger company, but like for example, like if a celebrity was to visit like this small coffee shop, and then Chris Hemsworth was to buy this type of coffee, and they called it Chris Hemsworth coffee, they could monetize that because like this is the one he always get. You can see it from his Instagram on his digital collectible section that's his one. Yeah. And there's so many different things that people haven't even thought of. Like you can do stuff like that.
It's a whole other wave of influencer marketing.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So you mentioned, like both of you guys think you are talking about an extension of marketing here, right? And so I mean, like NFTs are able to market a brand, but what are your thoughts on brands looking at NFTs simply as a marketing arm instead of actually imbued within the brand and then creating a new relationship with their customer base, one that is based on community instead of trying to sell them a product that's in the form of an NFT?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's essentially like cash grabbing by using like...
Well, it's because it's a funny, like, I mean, I'm not, there's what's an NFT purist really, but it's like the fundamental hook of the NFT is that it's a key to a community. And so when brands are seen and applying NFTs in their business models as a marketing lead, will that just inevitably like, oh yeah, cool, yeah, and they've got their NFT and you get this, or I guess, oh cool, like I have this NFT, I am now closer and more identified with this brand, and by identifying with it, I am part of a greater community that also owns this. It's a different, you know what I mean? It's not quite marketing, it's not quite, sales. It's kind of, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a really good question, actually. And I think not a lot of people think of it that way as well. And especially these big companies, I don't think they think of it that way sometimes, because the way they come across when they launch their NFTs, like being in the space a long time, you can tell if they've put thought into it or if it's a cash grab because they're just trying to capitalize on this movement right now. And that's like a really good thing that you've mentioned. Like the two examples I use that have done it well, I think are Nike and Adidas. Yeah. Like Nike, instead of coming in and creating their own NFT collection, capitalizing it during the bull market, they bought an already respected metaverse brand, Artifact Studios, and entered through that way. And they probably had consulting in the background from an already NFT native person who's probably been living on Twitter for the last 10 years. Like, and they just knows more about the space, and they probably would have consulted with them and said, no, you can't do that. You will get shunned by the NFT community if you do that. And it's not as genuine. Because that's what happened with Adidas. They got G Money to go out and consult Adidas for 6 months before they even started doing their project. And G Money, you could tell when they launched through Adidas that it was very, very close to the NFT community heart, because they launched with G Money. They launched with two other projects at the time as well.
Did they do it with Basie? They had the
Basie as well. Yeah, they had Basie, and they had also... another one. There's two. They launched all together, but Adidas didn't launch by themselves. They brought the NFT community up with them and launched, and made it very like even the words they were using on their website, the utilities. It was very well thought out. So when they did enter the space, everyone like accepted them, and everyone was very happy with the way they did it. Whereas like compared to Pepsi when they launched theirs, they sold it for like I think 2 ETH or something. It was like something crazy, and there was just these really low effort images that didn't really have any utilities at all, and that was it. So there is definitely a difference. I think in terms of where we are now, it's so early that the general public don't really understand the concept that you just said. Like they just see people launching it, but they don't understand that there's like a well thought out project versus a cash grab project. But over time, I think as they get more educated, they will become more familiar to these concepts and no, I'm not going to touch that. And yes, I'm going to touch that one because they did this, this, and this. And we've seen that as well from like when I first started in the space, where there was no 10K PFP projects. It was just art. To like people getting more educated now that they're not going to touch these projects anymore because they've been either rug pulled or they've just been more educated as time goes on. And that will become a point where they'll just know now not to touch like a scammy, anonymous Web3 project that's launching with 10,000 PFPs. Yeah.
It's a really good point you make when you're differentiating between a good project and a not so good, cash grab project. What's your advice to smaller brands and artists that are interested in getting into the space? Does it look like they should be collaborating with Web3 projects, or is there a checklist of things that you think you should really look at this and make sure you're doing it properly?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. I don't think there's an exact checklist, but I think doing as much, you'd rather be over prepared than under prepared in this space. Like you'd rather know more than you need to know than less than you need to know, because it just moves so quickly. Like it's moved probably 50 times since I've been in it. Like the alpha, the meta, like it's gone from anime NFTs to different NFTs that like pop off at certain times. So like obviously your main objective is to sell out something. So obviously you want to be as inclined and as close to what the meta is at that time, and also understanding market conditions. Like right now, I would definitely be very wary of launching a collection right now, because with no volume, you're just not going to get as much. Like it's 10 times harder right now than if you were to launch 6 months ago. So it's understanding that like in a bear market as well is probably the hardest time you can launch. And so no matter how much hard effort you can put in, it won't be as successful, I think, anyway, than a bull market. But then there's other things as well, like just reach out to people. Like you guys, like everyone in the space is so open to talk about their experiences, about their lessons. Like you learn, there's no university, there's no blueprint, there's no nothing, because it moves so quickly. So the best education you're going to get is to hop in a Discord server, slide into someone's DMs that's been in the space for a long time, and just ask them questions. Because from my experience anyway, the Web3 community is very open and very willing to help. So just reach out to people like you guys. Like even my DMs are always open. I answer like all my DMs.
Champion, wow.
Yeah, I answer all. It takes so long, but it takes. I do voice messages now. So like if I read it, I'll just be like, hey guys, I'm just doing a voice message. So just if it's rude, I apologize, and I'll just tell them to like really quickly get it out. Cool. So that way it saves you from typing. But yeah, just reach out. I mean, that's the best way to do it. I'm sure that's how you guys learn. That's absolutely how I learned as well. Yeah,
it was pivotal in our growth, and then from that we learned stuff, and then we got to share what we learned, and then everyone, you create a relationship. I wanted to ask, I mean, like you mentioned like the NFT space does move so fast, right? But like looking at it, it's like, all right, cool. Apes are popular now. All right, cool. Anime is popular now. All right, cool. We're having like a plush toy season now. There's just like market ebbs and flows, yeah? One thing that I've noticed that is consistent, I think we really pay a lot of attention to, is storytelling.
Yes. Yeah.
And storytelling is what actually creates the interest, because that's what is the aligning, that's what people align with. Humans love story, and humans are storytellers. And so the NFT is actually a representation of your coming into this story. But this is the creativity that's open, and we really try to talk to people that like come and engage us. It's like, think about the story and the creativity that you want to share, that you want to bring. Have you seen any projects along in the world right now, some alpha you want to drop that has got some really cool stories?
I'll take it back a bit, because you 100% hit the nail on the head there. So when Bored Ape Yacht Club launched, I could have minted like 7 times. I have nightmares every night of me sitting there going, because at the time, like for the people listening that might not know, there was no 10K PFP projects. There was just no PFP projects. In like late 2020, early 2021, it was just all about like one-on-one artists and all that kind of stuff, like trying to find the next
Banksy.
Banksy. You're trying to find that for the digital renaissance.
Yeah.
So then when this Bored Ape Yacht Club came out, the biggest intriguing thing they had was that they just had this blank website with like the notorious now, that house, and then like the creek.
Yeah.
And that's what was just going viral everywhere. I heard it everywhere, like, because back then it used to be on Reddit. I used to get my information from a few podcasts, and everyone was just talking about this random creek and this house on this website called BAYC. That was the story back then, and that's what intrigued me as well. But there was nothing on there, but they were mysterious, and the story they were telling through what they had on the website was essentially telling a story, but a very visual one, like an image says 1,000 words. So that's what I think has a really big impact on their success as well. Obviously, they were one of the first to launch after the CryptoPunks era. But that was a huge thing around them because everyone was just saying, no, the Creek's going to do this. No, that liquid there is going to be that. And it became this thing where people were just trying to guess and guess and guess and guess. And that was like, so like going back to what you were saying, that's what it was back then that really made them pop off, I think, anyway. And also the other thing is Azuki, like they had their garden thing. Yeah. Their garden thing went crazy, and the effort they put into their website and the amount of like, you can tell it all linked, the same themes across their Discord, their website, their Twitter statuses, it all had the same words. That's essentially storytelling in a way as well. So it's like, it's definitely, the better you do it, the more you can build like a cult following that want to know what's happening. But it's also that sense of mystery as well chucked in there.
Do you remember the Elio Trades and Becca Neo Tokyo?
That was a fucking crazy one though. It was intense. I remember I tried it for like an hour and I was like, nah, this is way too I'll let someone else do this for me.
Yeah, bro. It was like nice, like up in Discord. Like, it's just like my girlfriend's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, I'm finding clues.
Trying to figure it out.
Finding clues. Yeah, you're just like, you know, the guy from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and he's just like, the meme is like that, just with a bunch of like randoms in Discord, just trying to work out like, all right, so if I go to this bar, at this, it's just all it is. You're trying to hunt down like a web page.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But it was like that was the. You know, it was like you felt like a kid again. It was like Christmas as a kid. You're like, "Wow, it's Santa coming!" Like you're out there figuring it out, and that was like kind of what really captured a fair bit of the internet there.
100%, and that is like going back to what you said. It's the story that they told is really what created the grassroots like cult following that they have to this day still as well. Yeah. I can't remember what...
have you seen, like, have you got any, have you seen any projects that kind of captured that for you?
Honestly, they're the ones that, like, are about to launch, probably not too many, like, that are coming up. Like, nothing's really interesting me right now. The ones that have just launched after Bored Ape Yacht Club and after Becca and after maybe around the same time as Zuki is Clone X. They do it really well as well.
Yeah, that was cool.
The one that Nike owns,
Yeah.
Artifact Studios. They do a really good like job at telling a story as well with their reveals. They have all these clues that the communities have to figure out before things unlock, and you can figure out, if you can figure out before everyone else, it's good buying opportunities as well. Like people figured out that in the monolith that they had, that there was going to be Nike shoes in there, and obviously being the first ever Nike shoe, or potentially the first ever Nike digital NFT, that could have long-term value, so there were people buying them and speculating on that as well. So
you're seeing a lot of these drop mechanics changing, and so the staggered drops are becoming more popular as well.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you're seeing that's kind of interesting or innovative?
These are good questions, boys. Like back in the day, it was fucking gas wars. Were you guys
oh my god, yeah. I don't mind paying $1,000 for this. Like far out, bro.
There was no whitelist until like end of 2021.
It's a allow list now, Josh. It's a allow list.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. Times have changed.
See, it's changed again. But there's definitely it's changed so much. Like it went from that to the allow list to. Now there's like sequence drops where like one will go first and you have to be on the first allow list and the second and third.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And then filling out like stupid challenges on Discord.
Yeah.
And then it was like, did you ever rock into a Discord and everyone's just like, GM, have a good day. Having a great day. I was like, this is a small suburb in the Philippines. Having a conversation.
Exactly.
I was like, I'm out of here. Like,
exactly.
It's wild as.
Yeah, that's a good one though. I reckon that it's just going to get more creative and innovative, I think. But like the thing with the whole NFT launch, like the project 10K, 5K, I just wonder if we'll go away from that eventually. I think we still have a few more runs of them because we've only had probably like a few million people play around in this space. There's 4 billion internet users.
Yeah.
That we've still got like a few more runs of crazy, like people getting into the PFP and projects. But I think after a while, I think they'll sizzle out to like more of like NFTs just become of everyday life, a kind of thing where it's like you're using your phone, it's on Instagram, it's part of like the food you eat, like it's got an NFT associated from it, so you know that the farm it came from, you might not have that sprayed on it, and it's come through this section of like logistics all the way to where you are, because people are very frantic now on what they're eating.
Yeah.
And
so exciting.
Thor Chain is doing that.
Thor Chain's doing that, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's also another one called, I can't remember now, but they're all based upon supply chain management and how NFTs can solve like a lot of these issues or improve the
sourcing verification.
Exactly.
I'm really bullish on that space in the future 100%. Too, especially as like you were going on before trying to convince me to start eating bugs, and I was like, fuck no, bro. I want to know where my beef has come from.
Give it 3 months.
Yeah, no, but it's I mean that is a real utility application of it, that it makes
100%.
sense. You know, it's not speculative. It's like, hey, we're using this as a authentication tool. You got the immutability factor.
The transparency, like you can go to these shopping centers and say it's come from here, but like if you have NFTs incorporated into it, you can scan it, and where it's been scanned all the way through, you can actually see on the blockchain, which is transparent, exactly where it's coming from, where it's been through. Like, there's a lot of things you can do with it.
So many other use cases for that as well. You know, proving where you've traveled to and mementos.
Replace passport stamps.
Replace it when you go to festivals. Like everyone went through a phase where they collect the festival. What do you call it? Wristbands. Like imagine if you could have that on your Instagram and it flexes. He's been at Coachella 10 years in a row. Like he's a veteran. Like people go to you. They'll probably come to you with opportunities. Like, hey, we want to do this at Coachella. Like, can you help us with this? Or do you recommend this? Like, there's so many different digital interactions that we can have through having NFTs to represent our digital identities. That right now it's just pictures on Instagram that represents us, maybe text here and there. But actually having blockchain capabilities and interoperability as well it's going to change everything.
That's an interesting one where you move to like an agnostic world, blockchain agnostic, omni-chain kind of thing. Where it's like, you're not really like, the chain doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It's just can be transmuted anywhere.
You're not even going to know you're using a chain.
Exactly.
It's just happening. You can check if you want, but no one checks.
That's when the actual users will come in and just be like, okay, I'll just buy one. I don't have to fucking worry about whether it's on Tezos, Ethereum, Polygon, because that's what confuses all and
no one cares.
These retailers.
Exactly.
What is
a Tez? What's a smart contract?
Yeah, exactly. What is this MetaMask? Like eventually we'll get. That's the stage when I think mass adoption will happen. Is when it's so seamless that users can come in and one click, they'll just buy one and they know they own this digital asset.
Yeah. So you did something pretty cool recently, the last couple of months. You actually did Australia's first NFT ticketed festival. The Grass is Greener. No easy feat. We actually touched base with you during that, and you were like rolling pretty deep. You're rolling deep in the work, you know. You had a lot going on. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think it was the first, because there was one as well that's happening, but it's in New Zealand as well. But I think it's the first festival to happen that's incorporating NFT utility. And I think we minted the same day, so I think there could be the first, or there's this other one at the same time as well. But yeah, it's the first festival, or second, or along the same lines of.
You're pioneers in the space. You know?
Of like incorporating NFTs into like a ticketing system. So like instead of like you buying a ticket online, you can buy an NFT, and that acts as your ticket to get in to the festival as well. But with this festival, they wanted to have a bit of fun, and it's a historical like feat to be the first. So they also wanted to incorporate art into it. So essentially, there were PFPs. But with the PFPs as well, they were also the ticket to get in. So you can keep this historical piece of art, but then the PFPs also had utilities that weren't available to the general public. So general public, you can get like just normal ticket and like VIP. But with this festival, if you bought the PFP tickets, then you could get backstage pass, which is not available ever to anyone unless you know the festival founders, or you're VIP, like you're literally like a celebrity or something. But if you bought these tickets, you could actually, the PFP tickets,
that's cool.
You could actually get in with that. And there was also lifetime access ones. So there's only 5 of them, but if you got one of them, you could go to this festival forever.
Wow.
And that's like something that like has never been done before, I think, in Australian history either, or even in the festival history. So it was like these really cool concepts and utilities that we wanted to provide that wasn't just like, hey, you just have a piece of artwork and also a ticket, but you have utilities that aren't even available for normal tickets.
Cool.
So we kind of incorporated a few of those things as well. There's so many hard things because it's the first to be done in Australia. There's so many things that weren't even created yet. But like as we were like innovating, because it's like a 4, 5, 6 month process that got created along the way. Like for example, for the general consumer, like they don't want to create a MetaMask. It's like an 11-step process to buy an NFT.
Yeah.
So then there's this thing called Crossmint that came out like recently.
Oh, I love Crossmint,
it's
mate.
so good. It's a 1-step process. It's just like buying off Amazon or buying off eBay.
Yeah.
And they create the wallet for you. The NFT gets sent to your wallet, and you just have this NFT straight away. All you have to do is put it in your credit card. So there's like all these innovations that came out, which was exciting to do, but also quite difficult at the time. But it was awesome. It was a really cool thing to have done. Yeah.
So how was the interface and the reception of people? Did you leverage Crossmint's API and you were like, all right, cool, this is just going to be interface on our platform?
Yeah,
cool.
Exactly. That's what it was. Yeah. So they had like the normal website, then they had the NFT website where you could buy, and then across their socials you could be like buy NFT ticket or buy normal ticket.
Yeah.
I think it's still really early because like a lot of consumers still are very confused because like think about that audience, they're festival goers, like most of them probably aren't tech heads or crypto heads or anything like that. So the reception was good. Like there's a lot of questions asked in the Discord. But once they got their head around it, they were like, holy shit, this is pretty cool. And you also have like an art piece that could be like technically sold at an Australian auction house for a fair bit of money if like being the first. Like, maybe not now, but 5-10 years time. It's a cool piece of art to have as well. So
again, you're leading with the value.
Yeah, exactly.
First. It's like, why am I not buying this?
Yeah.
You know?
The grass is greener could have done like a redeemable rave safe NFT. I mean, anyone who got the NFT just like, here you go, here's some 5HTP, cool, thank you.
Well, thank you later.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I got like a little box full of like the festival.
You've got one.
I've got one. Bro.
Yeah.
It is full. Like, and I love like Splendor, Lost Paradise. What was that one in? Yeah, like Lost Paradise.
Yeah.
Dragon Dreaming, Dwarfs, Subsonic and stuff. Got them all, right? Listen out. And I was like, bro, like future music. We're talking about it on the way over here.
Yeah.
But you had a whole collection of that. Instantly, you're like, oh,
exactly.
There's got to be some service where you can like send in or prove that you've got the little wristbands and you can get the NFT back for it.
Oh, dude, actually, that's a good idea.
I would
thought of that.
Yeah.
Then
verify it.
Because then, like, it's at the end of the day, it's all your digital identity, and it's going to add to that. Like, imagine you can show all yours.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, I fuck with this guy because he's been to the festival. I know him. You feel like when someone wears a shirt you love from like if you're an anime head or like a pop culture person, you see Spider-Man, you'll go up to him and be like, "Fuck yeah, how's the new movie? Like, you liked it."
That's the community part of this stuff.
Back cataloging.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it's, I mean, as we're moving into like an age where kind of you're digitally connected, not physically. I think that those kinds of like connections are just even more essential, right? And that's what I guess that vehicle, the NFT, can offer people.
But that's I think like a thing people forget as well when they think of like NFTs are digital. Like, why would we give a fuck about something that's digital? People spend 80% of their life now on the computer and on their phones, like socially and for work. Like, of course, like it just makes sense that digital assets will be like very valuable because if most of your time and your attention is spent there, 4 or 5 billion people use the internet in the world. Then it's going to be like somewhere where like the assets on that platform or on that space will be valuable.
Yeah.
Talking about some huge concepts here. And you've mentioned a couple of times now the digital renaissance. Last time we caught up here in Brizzy, you got me onto this.
That's right.
And you got me onto a YouTube channel with, I can't remember the guy's name. His name is Josh as well.
Josh Vander, something like that. Yeah.
We'll link the video.
Yeah,
but you sent me down a bloody rabbit hole.
Really?
Yeah, but it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was sick. And I'd love for you to sort of just, explain that a little bit to our audience and sort of where you sit with that.
Yeah, we'll do a quick recap because this, like, it blew my mind as well. When I first heard it, I was like, this guy, because it came from a historian. This guy, Josh, is like in his really renowned historian as well, but he's also understands blockchain technology and its capabilities. So his background and the way he spoke about these concepts is really interesting because he came from a historian perspective rather than a full tech nerdy perspective. And so in the interview, which you'll link below, is he pretty much speaks about how we're living through a current renaissance right now, and he compares it to the first renaissance. I'm assuming it's the first one that we had when there was kings and queens, like was it the 1800s or 1500s? I can't remember when it was. And he speaks about how that was called a renaissance, and what made that a renaissance was essentially the ability, and again, chip in here because it's been a while since I've watched it, but it's been the ability for us consumers to communicate through like the vehicle or something. And back then it was a printing press, and for us it's like it's memes on the internet. And so we're able to transfer information now with memes, and we're able to relate to people, and it's our form of communicating with each other. And back then in the kings and queens days, pretty much he said 90% of people couldn't read or write. And they were like living in poverty, but they thought that they were living in the best conditions they were because they didn't get educated or told otherwise. So if they knew about the cavemen before them, at that current time, they would have been like, these cavemen had the shittest lives. We've got livestock, we've got this hut here, and we've also got like a bit of rice to eat every night. And they're like, this is the fucking dream. But it's because their perspective was it was so short-sighted, and they didn't like. If they looked at us now, they'd be like, "Holy fuck! Like these guys, what is this thing? Like we're recording with this, we're speaking through this, we're listening to things like that's digital, like wireless. That like it's about that perspective, and that we're going through one right now, but through blockchain technology, and that we're in like 100 years' time, we're gonna look back at this time now and be like, "Holy shit! Like blockchain decentralized the whole internet, but also gave us a lot of." Capabilities with like supply chain management, with all these other industries you can incorporate into as well to give like power back to the people and give us like a new way of living essentially. But I think there's a lot more. There's way more into it. I haven't listened to it in months now. So if you, add in a bit there if you.
I just love his take on art. And he was saying, there's been so many even mini renaissances that have happened that don't even get recorded.
Yeah.
But now we're going through this thing where there's this new iteration of art, and you're getting new creators coming through. It's a creator economy, and it was just very interesting to put it all into perspective and to go, fuck, like this is monumental right now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a crazy time that we're going through.
Yeah, and I think a concept he did mention as well was that, like, if you were to go back in time, like touching on like what's valuable or not, like if you were to walk through the caveman era and find a cave painting on a wall and you saw the first ever person to paint that, you'd want to cut that out and keep that because that'd be worth fucking billions of dollars because that was the first ever cave painting. Same thing with like animal hide paintings. Like that was the next venture they went to, I think, was that they painted on animal hides. If you could keep the first ever one, that'd be very valuable today. And you move on to paper, the first paper painting would have been very valuable. The first canvas painting would have been very valuable. Right now, we have the first time in history where we can actually own paintings digitally. So it's another level up again. And so we have the once in a lifetime opportunity to buy these assets up before they become too mainstream and people understand that we are living through like a digital renaissance. And so people don't understand that as well. It's like it's another level of art and another level of collecting, but digitally this time, but with actual ownership that you can prove through NFTs, which has never been able to be done before. It's so interesting. Like definitely, if you guys are listening, definitely listen to that podcast. It's one of the best ones.
We'll definitely link it. It looks at it overall instead of like you said, as from a techie perspective on this is what it does and this is what it does.
Yeah.
Speaking of the future, and I know like blockchain is like doesn't solve everything, but we're moving into a really strange, unprecedented financial era, and this era is one that kind of spurred out of COVID. We had there was a lot of money that was printed. There was a lot happening, right? Do you think that NFTs and crypto will have a place in our financial systems? And I'm talking like our major financial systems. Or do you think that it'll continually like kind of ride on the sideline while this crumbles and reinvents itself as CBDCs and crypto will always be the outlier?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not like a financial or like...
No financial advice, just thoughts and speculation.
I'm not really like I don't really understand the politics and like what's actually happening in the background. I just know that we're like living through a very bad time right now. But in terms of crypto getting mass adopted, like you can see these banks already and governments trying to use CBDCs.
Yeah.
So they know the power of it and they know that like if they don't adjust, that eventually like Bitcoin's like if you see the graph of Bitcoin's price potential, it's just been going up this whole, even with its downfalls as well of like 80% downfalls.
Still exponential.
It's still exponential. So I think they're just trying to adjust with us and be able to come in before the crypto space does gain too much popularity throughout everywhere else. And so they are trying to come in and get their mark in the space before it becomes too out of their control.
I feel like we're at like the precipice now of like humans just being like, oh, you know what? I like this.
Yeah.
And it's like they're just there. It's like a couple more years.
Yeah.
We're really interested to see how that plays out, especially as, NFTs become more mainstream. They replace like land titles,
100%.
replace like car ownership or insurance or whatever.
Yeah.
Be interesting.
I think people as well fail to like, the people that are deciding and coming up with these concepts on the internet and the media across the news are all 30-year-olds plus.
Yeah.
They're failing to realize in 20 years time, like no offense, when all these people die out, the next generation to come up were born with fucking smartphones in their hands.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be saying like this digital thing's worth that. They know digital things are worth stuff. Like they buy Fortnite skins. Like if you go to any dad now that has a son or a daughter, would have at least once in their lifetime asked, hey, for my birthday, I want you to buy me this digital thing, whether it's a digital skin or digital pass. So they're the ones that are going to come up and they will put value in a digital asset like Bitcoin because they already put value in fucking skins and stuff.
It makes sense to them.
It makes sense to them.
Yeah.
And it's us like buying games, right?
Yeah.
What
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that.
How much money did we spend on games back in the
Thousands
day?
of
Dude,
dollars.
unhealthy amounts.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was the best.
It was
my brother actually, he bought me for my birthday the
Matrix?
original,
I saw that. I was like,
man,
what?
the PlayStation 2
What, the Matrix game?
Yeah.
Really?
Dude, it was hectic.
And like I remember when my dad rocked up after school on a Friday and he was sitting there on the seat and I was like, you sick. I shouldn't say that word. I was like, I love you.
Yeah.
And so many amazing memories that come from that because we loved it, right?
Exactly.
And it's the same thing with kids today. And it's exactly the same thing with digital art.
Exactly.
Why do you hang a piece of art on your wall? Because it makes you
Exactly.
feel good because you like to know that you own that.
Exactly.
How is it any different in the digital realm?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like nostalgic as well. Like I used an analogy on another podcast, but like our dad's like my dad anyway, like he loves Star Wars. He'll collect anything Star Wars. Same with like us, like I love Pokemon. Like imagine if like the Pokemon games we played, like Red and Blue, those characters that were NFTs in there, and that we could actually hold them on our MetaMask to this day. Like imagine having that nostalgia.
Yeah.
And imagine being able to sell that as well on like platforms like eBay or whatever. Like that would have value in that. So our kids the kids now that are going to grow up, their in-game assets potentially could be NFTs, and there's going to be this whole economy on these nostalgic items that these generations have gone through that could have its own marketplace, but also digital identity, be able to make money off it as well for selling it. Like imagine like a first edition Charmander in one of the first releases of the Pokemon Red, having that in a MetaMask wallet and being able to sell that. There's money in that as well. There's money in history and nostalgia.
There is. I know that markets have continually demonstrated that. That's why you have museums. That's why you have like rare art collections. Art remains this like elusive kind of industry, right? I just lost my question. Sorry. Yeah. I just saw that statement on your jacket, graceful pursuit of superior self. Yeah. I thought that was really cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really nice
it's a nice saying,
mantra. Yeah. It's kind of very grounding, really. It's like, fuck, I like that.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's like one of our mottos for, like our friend groups and stuff.
Oh, really? Yeah. Is Training Club like a
Oh, yeah, this
brand?
is one of our, like, me and my family members started this as like a bit of a merch thing back in the day.
Yeah.
And so we just had all these like things we took inspiration of from like the internet and through like just what we'd grown up with, and just like would throw it on like different pieces of merch and stuff. So this is like like an old piece of shit. Yeah, it's like a few years old.
I like it. I like it.
I mean, like, as such a high-performing human in all aspects of your life, can you give us a little bit of an insight into maybe your daily routine or some mantras that you have or some philosophies?
For sure. Like my routine, I've always been like, what's the word? Everyone's always like, you need to have like a routine, right? Like, the best people in the world you see on TikTok or YouTube, they're like, I wake up at 5 and like I do this and I do that and do this. But I've always been like, I'm always a late night person. Like I don't get to bed till like 1 or 2 a.m. And like it goes off tangents. Like after this, if I go home, like the last 3 nights in a row, I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's this project that has come out called Lineage Name Registrar, which is the first ever contract on Ethereum that is essentially the same as an ENS contract.
Oh, really?
So like stuff like that just pops up. Yeah. So it's essentially
just some alpha there.
Yeah. So like all the good names are gone right now. But essentially, if you would have bought like, because you know how there's a 3-digit, 4-digit like meta happening right now. If you would have bought 3 digits and 4 digits, they're going for 3 ETH each. And so if you found that, it came out like a few nights ago, and when that happens, I go in rabbit holes and I don't sleep till like 3 a.m. because then you got to learn what the fuck's happening, what is the contract safe, how do you mint it. So like I go through like my sleep patterns and my routines like alter, but the main things that always happen is I like sleep at least for 7-8 hours, wake up, and like what I've been doing for like the last year now is this thing called, do you guys know who Joe Dispenza is?
Yes.
You know who he is?
Yeah.
I've been doing, so like I'm just like, I love his stuff. It's like, I reckon it's changed everything, my perception on life, like even the way like a manifestation to be able to do things like that. So I do his meditation in the morning they range from like 40 minutes to an hour. And it's all about like understanding that like there is the quantum realm, and understanding like in these meditations, he tries to get you to a frequency where you kind of leave your physical body, and then you're in like the quantum realm where there is no time, there is no space, there is no physical being, so you can get to your future quicker there. So it's essentially manifesting yourself into the position you want to be, where you're like, because we're a consciousness in the end of the day, and we're all energy. Like we're all atoms. 99% of atoms are not like thin air. So we're essentially like on this plane that's physical, and that if you can enter that other realm, or like at least in your brain, like through your consciousness, you can get to certain places quicker without even moving. And that's through just being and knowing you're there and experiencing it already, so that your body catches up to that experience, and it feels like I've already achieved that. So then when you're walking around every day, you've done it. You whether you want to make $100,000 a day or you want to live in a different country, you've felt that, you've had that experience already through a different energy level, and that you eventually get there. So that's what I've been like doing a lot, and that's like what I'm very religious about doing that, because it's like, especially in our industry where it's very like, I wouldn't say shunned, but it's hard in this market right now. A lot of people don't believe in it, and it's like every day, especially like you guys work by yourself, like we have like a really small team, and being like being very consistent and staying motivated as well. It really helps with that, because you're just like, no, this isn't just like a fad or anything like that. There's a lot of things that'll happen in this space. So I do that every morning, and then create like a piece of content in the afternoon, and then it's just like getting back to all our messages. And we also have like an agency side where we help brands with, like we said, like with the TikTok, specifically social media management and marketing for their brands, especially in Web3 specifically, to be able to grow their followings, their grassroots communities, utilize free views that you can get from TikTok by just knowing how to use the algorithm and all that stuff as well. So that's the rest of the day.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And are you loving this new stage of your life? I mean, it's so diverse. It's not the same thing every day.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm speaking like for us, it's like, bro, pivoting. I've like learned like copywriting, business, developing business acumen, lead gen, lead nurturing, all this, like how to like build scale and like what to be thinking about, how to like actually create value. Do you know what I mean? And it's even though it's something that you think is so natural, it's like, oh, wait a second, like it's a state of mind, it's a state of consciousness. I think that Joe Dispenza kind of maybe help you, and we've somehow without
realizing it.
It's like that's just kind of how you ended up, and I think that's quite speaks a lot for a lot of the people who are building in this space, because they genuinely want to see it grow.
Exactly.
It's been wild. It's been wild. Yeah, you seem to love it, man. Your videos are so cool, like really informative.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Yeah. No, it's definitely a change, but I think I don't know, like I said before off camera, like I love NFTs and I love content, so like it's just like a match made in heaven, and I'm sure you guys are the same as well. Like you just love what you do, so
happy for you, man.
It's
really cool. It's really cool. One more question before we wrap up. We've been very cognizant of the language that we're using when we're talking to people, and as we've said offline, we were like down at the markets the other day, like,
oh my god,
trying to give NFTs to people.
Don't use NFT.
Don't try it at home. But yeah, very conscious of the language you're using. We ask everyone the same question. How would you explain NFTs to your grandmother?
To your grandmother? That's a good one. Actually, I've seen a few people answer this. Rowdy and stuff have answered it. They've all had really good answers, so I'm going to try and come up with something a little bit different to them. For me, I would just say to your grandmother, I would just say it's just ownership, but for the internet. It's like you have you'd want to obviously relate to your grandmother. So what does she have that she likes? Like her old plates or whatever, like she has, or her glasses. Like, so imagine that, but for the internet, which she will definitely not understand at all. But it's just like, it's just ownership. It's like, imagine like a digital certificate that gives ownership to something on the internet. That's all completely online and in physical. So that's probably a really bad explanation, but
no, it's spot on though. That's all it is. It's just a certificate that says you own this somewhere.
Exactly.
That's all it is.
Essentially what it is. Yeah.
Amazing.
I love it. Before we wrap up, any alpha you want to share? Any like cool little thing you learned? The last coolest thing I guess that Luna.
I think the biggest thing for me, like being like going from a trader to like, and again, I'm not the most experienced. Like I will definitely not admit that. There's so many more experienced people out there. But like just from witnessing the space from like a viewpoint that most people hadn't, from like being 2020 to now. A big thing I see for potential in the space is like content creation or creating a brand in the space. Whether you are giving value or you don't want to monetize or you do want to monetize, I think people need to grasp that now, because like what we were speaking about before, there's like legacy brands that'll be made out of projects that even fail right now, just because you have the experience, and in 2 or 3 years time when people want that experience or want that knowledge, you could be a consultant, like you're yourself a legacy brand. So I definitely would suggest like just learn about it, like even if it's an hour a night and you're listening and you're not like a really big NFT goer or want to create anything, just keep learning about it, because you're 99% ahead of everyone else in the world right now. So it'd just be that, like,
hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
You check that out from NFT4Noobs with a 4.
With a 4,
Yeah, I love it. Josh, thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure actually just chatting the shit, and it was, that was actually so seamless, like nothing structured. So that was really cool, man.
No,
thank you for your time, bro. Really appreciate it.
This has been awesome.
Yeah, absolutely appreciate it.
Cheers, boys.
Yeah, cheers.